Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to second this very, very important bill. And before I proceed, I want to recognize your effort and your creativity in ensuring that the relationship between two governments, the national government and the county government, stays intact and in a sober way. I also would like to thank the current chairperson of the Committee on Devolution, Senator Kajwang, for having really taken up the matter from where you left and ensured that he tried to demystify this issue of Article 187. Mr. Speaker, what is happening in Nairobi today is an illegality. Mr. Speaker, and this illegality is happening because there is no clear legislative process on how transfer of function should be managed or how the reporting mechanism should be outlined. Mr. Speaker, when you read Article 187 2B, it is quite clear on who has got the constitutional responsibility of a transferred function. But the way things are happening in this country today, Mr. Speaker, I've always been on record saying that NMS is an illegal entity, and those who are busy carrying out this illegality will end up paying if and when we have a government that respects the rule of law. Article 226, subsection 5 of the Constitution is quite clear on the responsibility on the mismanagement of funds. Mr. Speaker, because of lack of this amendment to the Intergovernmental Relations Bill or Act, today NMS is behaving as if they are indeed the county government. Mr. Speaker, if you touch NMS, you are touching very powerful people in this country. What is shocking, Mr. Speaker, is that there was a suggestion, and what I've just heard from the chairperson, saying that Treasury is now sending the money directly to NMS instead of the money being sent to the county government as per the law. When you read the PFM Act, when you read the Constitution, it is quite clear. Article 219 of the Constitution is quite clear on where the funds should be sent. They should be sent directly to the county government, and the county government, having transferred this function and having budgeted for all those functions, transfer the budgeted amount to now this NMS. But that's not what is happening. In fact, tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, another illegality will still come up. Tomorrow, NMS will be launching what they're calling the Nairobi Revenue Services system, together with the Kenya Revenue Authority. This is something which, in essence, it is the county government of Nairobi which should be spearheading that process. The importance of this legislation, Mr. Speaker, and which I hope that Senator Moses Kajwang will be able to add or expound into the amendments, is that once this legislation is in place, it will be very clear, even in the Senate, even in the oversight body, as like the Assembly or the Senate, on who to summon to be accountable. Right now, Mr. Speaker, you see committees of this House summoning NMS to appear before them, which in essence, they should be summoning the county executive. Article 179 of the Constitution clearly stipulates who the authority is vested in. It is the executive, who is the county governor, the deputy governor, and the 10 CCs who are not members of the assembly. But the way things are happening now, it is like NMS is more superior than a governor. In fact, what I hope that Senator Moses Kajwang can incorporate in this act, in this amendment, is a clear definition of the scope of work of the transferred function and a clear reporting mechanism. Mr. Speaker, in a real world where accountability is what defines the order of the day, what ought to happen is that the functions which have been transferred to NMS ought to be sending in a status report to the executive, or rather the county governor, and indicating clearly that of the transferred function that you sent to us, one being an example of health, you outlined the following functions for us to deliver. You set up the following deliverables, and the following milestones have been achieved before any funds can be transferred.
Senator Olekina.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
You did mention the committee is summoning NMS. And from Article 125, I think it's within their mandate to summon any institution for purpose of evidence.
Mr. Speaker, in this House, it's been a tradition that we summon the members we summon the cabinet, we don't summon the PS. We summon the person who's got the constitutional responsibility. There's no problem with a committee summoning NMS director to come in, but he should accompany the governor because the constitutional responsibility remains with the transferring entity. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, what I'm stating here is that this amendment to the Intergovernmental Relations Act is quite timely. And what I would like to see is a situation whereby the committee, being a committee amendment, define clearly how this process should be taken, should be carried out, define the scope, set out the deliverables, and as well as the reporting mechanism for the milestones. Mr. Speaker, in other developed nations, when functions are transferred from one entity to the other entity, a project charter is defined, it is developed. In that project charter, it defines the scope, so that that entity, which is now has been given the authority to carry out the following functions, they know what their scope is. Today, Mr. Speaker, like I stated earlier, NMS and KRA are setting up what they are calling the Nairobi Revenue Services System, whereby they want to be able to collect all the revenue. They are the ones setting up that. In my view, even though the service has been transferred to them, the county executive ought to be able to take that to the assembly, have it approved by the assembly, and then once it has been approved by the assembly, now come in and have a meeting with them. It should not be the other way around. It should not be the Director General inviting the governor to go in and participate in a program, or rather in an exercise of activation to let Kenyans know that now NMS and Nairobi Service and the KRA have set up this system. That system should not belong to NMS. That system should not belong to KRA. That system should belong to the county government of Nairobi. So that tomorrow, when Governor Sakaja takes over, he does not have to go to NMS and say, give me the system for me to be able to handle. Mr. Speaker, that is a loophole for corruption. We have been talking, when I was with Senator Moses Kajwang in the Committee of Public Accounts and Investment, one of the challenges that we had was trying to find out how the money from the Jambo Pay were being accounted for. The gentleman who came in showed us a presentation and a live stream of how the income was coming. The problem that we had then is what is going to come up today, is that the Nairobi County government did not have control of that system. How then do we expect the county governor to be answerable to oversight bodies such as the Assembly or the Senate if they do not control or own the system? This is an illegality, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we must be people who believe in doing what is right, and where we see that something is going wrong, we stop it. We do all these things for posterity. We're not doing it for now. It doesn't matter how much power we have. We shouldn't be trying to line our pocket in the expense of future generations. So, Mr. Speaker, why I support this amendment is because no one will come and tell us tomorrow that just because Nairobi County has transferred this function, the governor seems to have any powers in terms of ensuring accountability. The person who has to be accountable is the governor, as per Article 179 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, Article 179 of the Constitution places the governor as the CEO and the deputy governor as the deputy CEO. In fact, the Constitution does not even place the president as the CEO of the country. It is only the governor who is defined as the CEO of a county. So, Mr. Speaker, I hope that our colleagues will be able to see sense in this. And even the president, when this bill gets to him, you should see the sense in this because we are trying to protect our Constitution. Today, Mr. Speaker, if you ask the county government of Nairobi to give you a status update on all the functions that have been transferred to NMS, they will tell you go to NMS and get it. Yet, it is their responsibility. If you go to the County Assembly of Nairobi today and ask them about how things are being done, let's say in terms of the level 5 hospitals, ask them about anything to do with the ICU, the issues that Senator Sakaja was raising. They will tell you we don't know anything. Because NMS is running this county as if it is their own property. They make the law, they determine what has to be done. In fact, I dare say, the Constitution is suspended when it comes to the issues of NMS in this country. And this is an illegality. You know, if it is an illegality, we must say it is an illegality so that we correct it. Mr. Speaker, I'm quite happy with the issue of the accountability aspect. I heard Senator Moses Kajwang describing how this transferred function should be funded. Today, Mr. Speaker, if you ask the County Assembly of Nairobi, if you ask the executive, the deputy governor of Nairobi, how much money has been budgeted for building hospitals in Nairobi, they will tell you they don't know. Because whatever is budgeted, more money is spent there. The exchequer releases more money. There are hospitals which we saw the president opening at night. Were those hospitals funded through the shareable revenue? Where did that money come from? You know, there is this illusion that the president owns all the money in this country, or the executive owns all the money in this country. That's a fallacy, and we must be able to tell it as it is. It is Parliament that divide the revenue which is to be shared between the national government and the county government. Mr. Speaker, this bill will also be very important for future government because of the transfer window. Today, Mr. Speaker, we are well aware that the transferred functions or the deed of transfer will be lapsing sometimes in March of 2022. I'm 100% sure that currently there is a lot of debate, there's a lot of lobbying, there's a lot of pressure for the executive of Nairobi County to sign the transfer of functions all the way past March of 2022. In fact, Mr. Speaker, this bill should further define or set prerequisites for renewal of the transfer of functions. They should be clear, and I hope that we can amend some of these proposals to include the approval by Parliament after Parliament has extensively gone through the report of the success, looked at the milestones of the functions which were transferred to either, in this case, from the county government to the national government. That is the only way we can be able to be sure that when you are transferring a function, you're not only transferring corruption, or you're not transferring the authority, but what you're doing is that you're transferring a function for it to be carried out better than you would. I'm sure the framers of the Constitution, what they had in mind when they came up with Article 187 was that if, by any chance, I feel like as a governor, I'm not able to build roads because I don't have the expertise, yet the national government is able to do it better than me, I transfer that function to them for them to do it better, but not because there's pressure from the executive to take that function. What happens in this country, Mr. Speaker, one day we'll all be very accountable and will be judged by history if we do not correct it now. So I thank Senator Moses Kajwang and the committee on the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations for trying to put some sense and sanity into this issue of transfer of function. I beg to second.